was the high today, and it's 67 right now. If you've not picked up a copy.
Salem was found stabbed to death the day before.
Young. I mean, her teeth weren't even in yet.
In progress now in all 6.
Hanford girl took her last steps.
Melissa Ann Tremblay was a friendly, well-mannered 11-year-old elementary student who was found dead on the railway tracks on Monday afternoon around 4 p.m. by a railway worker. Her leg had been severed just below the thigh. Her face was battered, her throat cut from ear to ear, with her underwears missing and clear signs that she'd been sexually abused. Her mother, although married, liked to regularly hang out in bars, meet new men. Without knowing her, I can only suppose that's how she got her kicks. Often leaving her daughter in the car, outside playing in the dark, or bring her inside the bar with her. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. But there for the grace of God, right?
Melissa would sit at a table by herself, and we would give her a Coke, something to drink, and sometimes a bag of chips, and she would just be there.
On the Sunday night in question, Melissa's mother were in the same place as usual, propping up the bar with a new boyfriend. And her daughter was out playing in the parking lot in the dark. It's around 10:30 p.m. that she was last seen in the railway yard, adjacent to the bar. An area frequented by hobos, drug addicts, general creeps. You know the score. I hope I haven't offended any of you who may have been the aforementioned. The railway worker who'd found her said that after he finished puking, he took a closer look and he recognized the girl as someone who hung out in the area regularly. Her mother had waited the next morning until she called the cops, and I suppose you could question that, but it wouldn't have made any difference anyhow. She started handing out flyers, but I guess it were a little too late, because her daughter were already in heaven, if such a place exists. Her funeral were well turned out. She was a popular kid, and the cops filmed it, because they figured that maybe the pervert might have come round, so he could enjoy the fruits of his labor, for want of a better term.
Melissa was a sweet and wonderful child. I held her the day she was adopted, and from then on she's been an inspiration for all our lives.
There were some individuals, including the principal of Melissa's school, who questioned the mother's ability to care for her daughter and leaving her in such vicarious places. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't have made a difference. And I guess if it weren't a shit show, but it'd do until one got there. And although clown chowder-eating cops had no suspects, they were quick to focus on the brutality of the crime. Cutting a girl's throat and her head almost clean off. Several witnesses had seen a banged-up van in the area and an older man talking to the child, but no one could say for sure or give a definitive description. But either way, Melissa and her killer's DNA painted the parking lot that the child had been abducted from. And they believed that the girl who dreamt of being a secretary died only minutes after being abducted.
I like to type a lot, and when I write, that's pretty good, and I'd like to learn to do shorthand, too.
And although investigators cracked the skull of every kitty diddler and freak in the area,
how you doing? Police officers? Nope.
It came to nothing, and after a couple of years, the case went colder than a retard's tongue who was working at an ice cream factory. You know, because retards like ice cream, apparently. But it was 33 years later, give or take a day or two, when I'm guessing the last of the meat had fallen off Melissa Tremblay's dead mother's bones. The chowder-eating cops must have had a little extra scratch in their budget, because they ran the jizz that they scooped out of Melissa through the jizz detector. And the jizz detector never lies.
Your Honor, this is the matter of Marvin McClendon, docket 1387 of 2022, to be arraigned today on count of first-degree murder.
All right, sir, you're entitled to be represented by an attorney in these proceedings. The court has appointed counsel for you and notes appearance of counsel today. Kamal.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth is asking that the defendant be held without bail, and just I'm going to very briefly give the court a background of the case and a summary of the facts. On September 11th of 1988, 11-year-old Melissa Ann Tremblay was at the LaSalle Club on Andover Street in Lawrence with her mother. While her mother remained inside the club, Ms. Tremblay was playing in the area. She never returned to the club that night, and a search essentially ensued for her. Her body was found that following day, September 12th, 1988, in the railroad yard in Lawrence. She had been stabbed to death, and her leg was amputated post-mortem when a train ran over her. From 1988 and the years that followed, investigators spoke to suspects, witnesses, whoever they could, trying to gather information. They learned that during that day, people had seen her playing in the railroad yard. A pizza delivery guy had seen her in the late afternoon and early evening hours. Witnesses also saw her speaking to someone who was in a van in the area. Despite speaking to witnesses, no one was ever able to be tied to the case. In 2014, the Massachusetts State Crime Lab was able to generate a DNA Y-STR profile from the body of Melissa Tremblay. And as the court is aware, a Y profile essentially would be the same for anyone on the paternal line of somebody, so all males in that family. Using various DNA advancements, the Commonwealth was able to focus on the name McClendon as possibly belonging to that DNA standard. Through investigation, the Commonwealth located various McClendons and took DNA samples. DNA samples were taken from the defendant before you, Marvin McClendon, whose DNA profile was consistent.
McClendon Jr. had worked as a prison officer at a nearby prison, and the fat fuck actually thought he was gonna get away with it. He'd been out drinking, wanted to get his freak on, and Melissa just happened to cross his path. But I guess every dog has his day.
Legion forever!
That book says no more.